Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us either in person or online. My name is Adam Cloud, and I'm the Chief of Right-of-Way for the Department of Transportation. Tonight, I'm joined by support from our Baltimore City Information Technology Team, the DOT Community Engagement Team, the Special Events Group. Just take a section, let people introduce themselves. So we have
Michelle Abbott Cole. I work for the right of way division here at DOT and I manage special events.
I'm Bruce Shields. I work with Twain Walker. We're doing the community between Under Armour and Knicks.
People like me, I work for the Federal Hill Transportation team, as we say, so I'm just learning how to use all these permits appropriately.
okay.
Bill Seattle, the chief of excellence for Baltimore City.
Eric James, lead of the Stakeholder Engagement Division, DOT.
Given the main the program manager with the Baltimore City overseeing permitting programs across different agencies.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Okay. All right. So going on to our agenda for this evening, we'll be going over the transition to OpenGov, improvements in the process over our old system. We'll go through a software demonstration for both the special events and temporary right-of-way groups. We'll go over our communications plan, and then we'll have questions. So we actually scheduled a couple breaks in the presentation for questions. We'll do the first set of questions after we cover the temporary right-of-way, and then we'll have another opening for questions at the end. If you're joining us online, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and we'll try our best to get to those as well. We just ask that you hold your questions for those times. Okay. So in late 2023, the Right-of-Way Services Division started the first phase of this transition to OpenGov, primarily focused on a lot of the backup office functionality. So that phase one really focused on moving all the data and documents that we had in our previous system into our new system, and getting our requirements mapped, doing our process flows and everything that kind of fed into the logic that goes into the new system. Phase two is launching February 18th. That will be the launch of the public portal for temporary right-of-way permits and special events permits. Some of the process improvements that we are realizing through this. It represents an improvement over our current process, which involves rekeying of information that was either entered on a handwritten form, on a jot form, or in a fillable PDF before the application can be routed to approvers for approval. The public portal in OpenGov bypasses that rekeying step and allows applicants to enter their application data and all required documents all in one place. They also have the opportunity to interact with Baltimore City staff and reviewers through the interface. There also are email notifications that come to the users at key points in the application. And it also has an integration with Paymentus, which is the city's online payment system. You'll be able to pay for your permits all in one place through a link that lives in OpenGov. Right. Okay. So in order to log into the system, you do need to set up a user profile for OpenGov. Other departments in the city also use OpenGov, and that if you have a previous OpenGov account set up, That'll still be the same login information that you'll use here. You won't have to go through the process of setting things up again. This is the login page that you'll land on. I'll go through this in more detail when we go through the demonstration, but it's as simple as navigating to that sign up place there and entering in your email address and a passcode. And once you click sign up, you're ready to go. Okay. Actually transition a little bit and start with the demonstration. Yeah. Okay. It's interesting. On the WebEx, do you see, hold on one second. Hold on for 1 second.
Folks, just give us 1 second. We're having problems with the screen in the room. Just give us 1 second.
All right. Thank you all. I appreciate your patience. So in navigating to the OpenGov application, you'll still be able to get to it through the same entry pages that you use currently for temporary right-of-way and the special events. There'll now be a link on those pages that say apply now. And there also is a link to a OpenGov quick guide that kind of gives some tricks and tips for navigating the system and also logging in. I'll go into apply now and kind of go through some general navigation of the system. Okay. When you click the link from either of the respective pages, either special events or temporary right-of-way, you'll land in the portal in the place where you would apply for those permits. When you click apply online, if you're not logged in currently, you'll be prompted to log in. And the first screen that you'll see once you log in will have the data that you entered when you set up your profile. You'll see for the temporary right-of-way permits, same statement that appears on the paper version that acknowledges that as the applicant, you are assuming the responsibilities under the permit and that a TCP or traffic control plan will most likely be a part of your application. In some cases with a temporary right-of-way permit, the person that is actually applying for the application isn't going to be the responsible party. Some examples could be an expediter hired by a company to apply for permits on their behalf, or a contractor applying. So in that case, you would have this area to enter that responsible party. For the purposes of the demo, I'll have the applicant and the responsible party as the same person. Entering the proposed work location is next. City, street, state, and zip code are optional. We do need the cross streets. So not for the temporary right-of-way permits, they're a little bit of a different animal. Not every location where work will be corresponds one-to-one to a property address. So it may legitimately be a section of a street or a lane. So I'll put main. You also have the option of entering additional work locations. And as a tip for navigation, every field annotated with an asterisk is a required field. You can't navigate to the next page until all of those are filled out. This is also logic-based. So we looked at the paper form and built logic behind this to only have you answer questions that you need to or that are relevant for what you're doing. So when you answer yes to this question, for example, the next page prompts you to enter those additional work locations. If you were to enter no, the logic bypasses that step and takes you to where you would enter your contractor information. Here you also have the option of adding additional contacts for your contracting company. Same general navigation. These are can be one to many, so you can enter as many as you need to. So this page contains information that would be used to seeing in the body of the application. All of the permit types that you would generally see as checkboxes on the paper form are here in a drop-down box. For the purposes of this, we'll choose an alley closure. This is not a city contract, so we'll answer no to that. There is a required field for a council district. If you don't know the council district that your project is taking place in, we do have a link here that goes to a city council district lookup page. So you can enter the address or location of your project and get that city council district to add. The next required field is a description of work, the requested start date and end date, and you also have the option of putting in a start and end time to be specific. There's a question here about a 24/7 closure. Just to show you the logic again, if you were to answer yes to that, additional questions would appear, but we're going kind of the quicker path there and selecting no. You're then asked if you're going to impact a parking meter. This is something that's common for both the special events and temporary right-of-way permits. If you're impeding on a parking meter, you need to enter information for the meter, and that information will be entered here. For some of the larger events, there may be multiple streets impacted, so this is similar. You will be able to do one-to-many as an entry here as well. So for this, we chose an alley closure. So we'll say no for a lane closure, no for a street closure, and yes for an alley closure. And then you're asked to enter how many alleys that you're going to be impacting. Say 3 for this. Similar logic appears for all of these other closure options. We'll do no for a sidewalk closure. So for the alley closure application type, this is where we kind of terminate in terms of entering data. For other applications, there'll be more depending on the scope of the job and what's impacted. You then have a place for the applicant signature. And then next. So as I spoke of earlier, they're required documents based on the type of activities you're doing. These are the 3 required documents that would apply to this one. Really, depending on the size and scope of your job, it really could be more or less depending on what you need to do. All right. After you upload your required documents, you're able to review the form before you do your entry to make sure that everything was entered correctly. If there was anything you need to go back and modify, you click edit and you'd be able to make your changes. When you confirm your changes, you're taken back to that same review sheet. If you scroll down, you can see where you made your modifications. And the next step is confirming and submitting. All right. So at this point, a record number is generated for your input, and that'll be the same record number that'll follow your application throughout the process. Kind of some navigating tips here. You're able to see where your application is in the process here. These are the steps required before your application is submitted. And you're able to do your messages to the reviewer there. Give me a second. I'm going to go into the employee side now to take action on the permit I just entered. So on the employee side, we see everything that was entered and your attachments. After that intake and review step is completed, application, oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong record. There we go. Okay. All right. All right. The staff does the preliminary review of your application to make sure all the data was entered correctly. They would enter their name as the person that is working on the permit. For temporary right-of-way permits, permits are issued for a week at a time. So I'll put 3 weeks in here, and that goes into the generation of fees. And then staff reviews fees to make sure that the fees were tabulated correctly for the request, and then approves that step. Going back to the user side, the public portal, you see that the steps that were taken and approved by the staff member now have a green check mark beside them, and the temporary right-of-way fees step is active. You also receive email notifications when these steps happen. So you received an email when the application is submitted, and also when the payment is due, you receive emails. That same link, and there's a link in the email that you can use to take you back to your application as well. Going through the payment, you can pay with Paymentus by either a credit or debit card or by using your bank account and doing an ACH. This is the payment verification page in Paymentus. Pay your permit fees. Once you pay, the payment is registered and a draft permit is generated. That draft permit is then reviewed by staff to make sure that all the information is correct before they release the live permit. So I'll go into that step for this record. Your payment's registered. We review the draft permit to make sure all the information is correct and then approve it. And at that point, your live permit is generated. Going back into the customer portal, you see that all of those steps have been completed. But when you click on the temporary right-of-way link, you have an option to print your document. So this will give you an opportunity on your side to print out your permit that you need. You do still need to come to the office to get the no parking signs if that's part of your project. So those are still going to be disseminated by the offices. A second. Okay. Going into your account and navigating around, you have the ability to view any permits that you entered previously. You can check statuses. I didn't mention this when we were going through, but you also have the opportunity to kind of save a draft, so you don't have to do it all in one sitting if you need to come back and get some information. You can view messages if you have a new message from a reviewer or a staff member, update your profile, and also see permits and documents that you have historically. So this really keeps a running record of things that you've done through the system. This isn't as much of a diversion from the current path for people that are used to doing temporary right-of-way permits. We have been using this, as I said, since March of 2024. So users on this side are used to being able to go in and kind of review statuses and look at things as they go along. But the actual entry is really the new piece for them and the online payment component. I think we're at a point where we can take a break for a few questions, if any in the audience or online has any questions.
I'm Mike Fetz. I'm with the Baltimore Development Corporation. So I've got several questions. The first is, can community members and other stakeholders see active ROW permits and or C permits that are under review that will have an impact on the neighborhood or commercial?
The way the system is configured, you only have access to permits that you apply for. Most of these don't have a notification requirement because they really are kind of related to a specific location. But with our community engagement teams, as these projects are larger and they have an impact both on neighborhoods and traffic, we work with our community engagement team and our traffic team to kind of get notifications out if there are going to be any impacts.
Next question is actually first, let me say that you did a great demo. Will something similar to that be available online for first-time users?
It will. So in the, let's see what I have up here. On the web pages, we will have, on the existing web pages, we'll have this OpenGov quick guide that has notes on how to log in and navigate the system. And we're also going to work to have the video posted as well of this event.
And final question is, will technical assistance be available if any applicant has questions while completing the online forms?
So there'll still be interaction with the staff that you're used to interacting with on a day-to-day basis. We'll work with you to answer your questions. If it needs to be escalated, it'll go through us and we'll get it to the development team.
That would be the support call.
Correct.
So we still manage. So there's an opportunity now, if you have any questions, you can schedule a support call with staff. And then they'll schedule however you want to do it. If you want to text, if you want to have it virtual, and then they'll walk you through the process if you need that additional help.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
It's like a.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have, going forward, I'll repeat the questions for the people that may not have, or did you catch them?
They give me a second, chance to hit the mute.
Okay.
This mic will pick their question up. So
Okay. Okay. Hold on. So I'm going to mute my microphone and then Eric will pick up.
Kind of a predecessor question for the definitions or categories on this page. Is there like a definition guide or something that people can go to? For instance, the street/utility cuts versus the footway sidewalk closure. Are those, like, if I was going to go put in the 88, do I just do the street utility cuts? And how would I kind of like, I guess, look at definition for that?
So navigating the definition of those, it really will be, for the most part, you having a coordination with your professional service provider that you interact with. So the project that you kind of mentioned, the installation of an ADA ramp, that would require a utility street cut. It would also most likely require a sidewalk closure and a lane closure to accommodate machinery and equipment. And there's also a curb cut fee and a sidewalk removal fee. So that's so you retain your vendor. They help guide you through the process, but we also have our staff, which will have eyes on it as well. If you have your project description is missing elements, they're well versed to add those elements.
You notice that there are lane closure options in some of these, so the street could have a lane closure, and then I might have to go back and apply for the sidewalk closure separately.
Oh, no. So you really give a total overview of your project in your application. So all of those questions, as you answer them, they feed more data into the back end through the logic, and that kind of, once the staff member adds the duration, all of those elements are picked up and generated in your bill.
Sometimes, like you said, a lot of excited saying, "Oh, this needs to be added." Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Any other questions? Okay. Give me a second here. Is the first one here, can you share a link to the portal in the chat?
What can I do the contract to ensure that the permit has passed.
What can you do?
What
I'm
can
sorry, I'm
you
not
do?
seeing all of the. Oh, give me 1 second here. Here we go.
They can't hear me, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
I think I got it. Good evening.
It might be easier for you to just read it and then you can answer.
Correct.
Okay, I think I'm good. What can I do if the contractor in charge of my permit has passed away? So one thing I didn't mention is when you are submitting an application, you also have the ability to invite someone else as a guest. So if I'm retaining a contractor to do work for me, you can be added as a guest. So every email that your contractor sees, you get as well. You guys kind of have dual access to the application, so you both are able to see what's going on. If there was some situation where a contractor had passed away and they had applied for something on your behalf, it really would be you contacting our staff members, and then we'll be able to add you as a guest on the back end. Next question. Are you able to save your edits and come back at another time? Yes, you are. You're able to save a draft, and then when you go back into your account, you're able to search your drafts and take any additional actions that are required. I didn't see Baltimore City PD in that workflow checklist. Does this go to them for special events? So we covered the temporary right-of-way first. In the special events workflow, that is one of the review groups that's included in that. But the communication component of the special events is handled a little differently. And I asked Michelle to kind of speak to that when we make that transition. Is a payment due when applying or when permit is approved? So that's another one that has a different wrinkle based on if it's a temporary right-of-way application or a special event application. In the temporary right-of-way application route, payments are due once the permit is approved. In the special events payment route, I think we'll talk to, I'll hold off on that. We'll talk to that when we get to it. Patrick from Blue Water, Baltimore. If your organization is exempt from any permit fees, is there an option to circumvent the payment process, or would that be handled on the back end? So that would be handled on the back end. If there was any circumstance where you wouldn't be billed permit fees for a certain project, kind of based on the answers in the logic, supporting documentation for that exemption would need to be submitted. How far in advance of construction work do we need to make an application for a temporary right-of-way permit? Currently, we are a 15-day turnaround. We're committed to a 15-day turnaround. We work to do what we can to get things out as quickly as possible, but it really is kind of based on kind of workflow and what comes through at a given time. Can you share a link to the portal in the chat? I'm not seeing the apply now button on the website. So the website that I'm showing now is for kind of demonstration purposes. When we go live on the 18th, all of the new links will be in place. I do believe kind of in the near term future, we'll have the tutorial document and then this posted. So that may come a little before the 18th. Yes. Okay, it looks like it's all of the questions online. Okay. When you ran through the example with multiple alleys, the example just completed. For our work, we plant trees on several streets through the city at once. Based on your example, it seems like we can bundle several block sidewalk closures at once. Is that correct? Yes, it is. So when you're identifying locations, you have the ability to identify additional locations. And you're also, as a requirement for, I would say, every temporary right-of-way application, you would need to submit a project map, which would really lay out the individual areas. So there's not a requirement that you do a permit for every individual location. Are we going to be able to pay the parking meter fees online? Yes, that's a fee that would go into your fees payable, and you'll be able to pay that through Paymentus as well. You can send this video as an email, like the invite. How soon will this video be live? I'm hopeful that we should have it posted maybe as soon as 72 hours. Okay. Okay. All right.
Are the timelines still the same for special events?
Yes, and we'll kind of talk through that in a moment. Okay, give me 1 second here. All right. Michelle, if you wouldn't mind, could you come up and just give a little overview of special events, specifically around the timelines, and I'll kind of talk to how that'll kind of be enforced going forward. Thanks, Michelle.
And write this down. Hello, everyone. So the time frame for a special event, the acceptance. So, and this will continue on this website as it has been for the last couple of years. For any large scale special event, we accept that application at least 6 weeks prior to the date of the event. The expectation with this fantastic new system that we have is that you should have permit in hand approximately 45 days from the date that you submitted. There are some contingencies with that, because what the city has done in order to assist us, to assist you all, is we have busy dates. So there are some dates that may not be available for folks, but we will work with you to find an alternate date. Those busy dates are defined as Artscape would be a busy date. AFRAM would be a busy date. Any date where the majority of our city services and resources are going to be to those large events. For a block party, which we want everybody to have, that time frame is approximately 30 days from the date of your event that we accept those. And the same for that. It would be 30 to 45 days from the date that you submitted that block party to the date that you would have that in hand. And we also handle parking and curb lane parking permits. So if you are having a wedding, I don't know, any other festive event on private property, and you want to have parking for your guests, that's a 7-day turnaround time frame. You submit the application at least a week before, 7 days before, and then approximately 7 days you'll have that. And I think is that all our special events? That is. Did I miss something?
So just a clarification, you said if you're going to do something like reserve parking and you would submit that 7 days before.
Yes.
And the 6 week stuff is for bigger events or?
Yep. So for any large festivals, so those are for festivals, for foot races, for parades. That's at least 6 weeks before. But we open up our applications the first week of January. So we want you to get them to us as early as you can, because if there's a conflicting date, we want to be able to facilitate either a move of a date or a change of venue or location for you. Okay, that's it.
Okay, so now going on to the special events record type. I'm sorry. Your interaction and your navigation to the OpenGov will be handled in the same way that users are used to interfacing through the special events website. As I mentioned with the temporary right-of-way, the transition isn't as large for temporary right-of-way because they are used to interacting with the system to review process of their permits. Similarly, with special events, we currently have a JOT form in place that we used as the basis for constructing the special events permit. So people that are used to filling out the JOT form and navigating those pages, that logic and that look and feel is replicated in the special events application. Similar to the other page, there will now be apply now buttons added and links to that tutorial information. The pages will can kind of continue to navigate as they do now. There's a special events checklist that you can look at before you get to the application. It'll kind of give you an opportunity to prep the documents you need. All of these links will have all of these pages will have the apply now link, and you'll be able to land in your application. So by clicking apply now for the special event, record type, you're dropped into the special event record type here. Just like the temporary right-of-way permit, you click apply online. Sorry, before I go forward with this user account, you can apply for both special events and temporary right-of-way. If you click the City of Baltimore link, you're taken to the main landing page where you're kind of able to pick what you want to apply for. So if you were applying for, if you had, very unlikely, but if you had one of each, you'd be able to kind of do that with the same login ID. Pretty much the same thing as previous. It populates your applicant information in the first tab. And then there's the event organizer information. All right. So as Michelle was kind of alluding to, we also support events that happen on private property. Those require a permit from DHCD, but you can, in conjunction with some of those, rent equipment from the city. And there's a checkbox here if that's all the only interaction that you are having with special events related to your event. You have the option of just doing an equipment application, which uses the logic and kind of strips out some of the questions that will be geared towards the larger special events. Next, you're asked about nonprofit organizations and your relationships to those for your events. Nonprofit organizations and some neighborhood groups do receive a discount on select city fees. So this logic goes into how that's calculated in those instances. Okay. So we accept applications for all of the applications Michelle mentioned: block parties, single day special events, multiple day special events, and event parking. All of those are handled through the system. So for the sake of the demonstration, I'll do a single day special event. More logic just to show you some back end. Based on the number of attendees that you have in your event, there are different requirements for security plans with different thresholds. So events with more than 200 people are a threshold. Events with more than 250 people are another threshold. So all of that logic is kind of baked in, and that bakes into the required documents that you'll see at the end. We ask that you provide all the information that you can about your event. And then you can add your event dates. So this is similar to the navigation we talked about previous, where you can do one to many. Also with the event dates, you have the opportunity to enter your setup and breakdown time separately. And we ask that you do that to kind of have the best idea about the different constraints of your event, when people will be in the area versus when you're cleaning up. Gives us a better idea of how to plan. As Michelle, for the demo, it's not implemented, but as Michelle mentioned, there will be limitations in terms of time frame on advance notification and how far in advance you can, how close to your event you can enter an application. We really do need to stick hard and fast to our timelines in terms of when you need to submit an application to make sure that all the city services can be aligned and people have the requisite review time for their applications. Similar, I'll just show you here. So if you would answer yes, there'd be additional questions. Here.
Most of this would be those 1199, it shows at the highest, they're showing off the list.
Okay, I'll go back to that when I do the mod. Okay. Temporary structures and equipment. You'll get here quicker if it's just an equipment app. And if you're getting equipment from the city, there's a question, how will you get them? And if there's an ask from the city, there's a requirement that you do the city services and equipment to kind of itemize the list of things that you are asking for your event so we can coordinate with availability to see if it's there for your event. Questions about publicity for your event? We rarely have this happen, but we do offer the ability to have hang horizontal banners in conjunction with your event. That's something else that the special events team handles. You can reach out for them if you're interested. Financial sponsor information. So handling money on site can trigger some additional security requirements, but we'll kind of see that path as I make this a larger event. Selling merchandise and selling food would trigger interactions with the health department or our street and mobile vendor group. So that's where some of that's coming from. I'm sorry, if you're having alcohol on site, there's interaction with the liquor board that needs to happen, and you're guided. That's, I guess, instructional text there and a required document on the back end for that. Almost there. Waste removal, including porta potties. And then solid waste removal if you needed to have a load packer from the city provided. That would be an interaction with DPW. With some of the mobile events, or events that are expecting larger crowds, there may need to be traffic enforcement officers or BPD involvement to assist with managing pedestrian and vehicular traffic. These are questions asked about this, but in the review process, subject matter experts kind of review the event and kind of make their own determination on what their suggestion is for resources. So you have your answer here, but that's also reviewed by a subject matter expert. And then the parking meters question, same thing that I sent before. Security plan. Okay, so now we're at the applicant acknowledgements, essentially certifying that everything that you entered was true and accurate to your knowledge, that you're understanding the requirements of doing an event in the city. And this last bullet here talks about how you're billed. So this is the first allusion to it. So when you're paying for a special event, you're actually billed at maximum 3 places, at minimum 2. There's a fee collected. There'll be a fee collected when you submit your application. Before your event date, you're billed 25% of the cost. And then after your event, a final reconciliation is done, and you receive that bill for the remaining amount. Okay. Then we have.
Quick question.
Mhm.
To that end, would the applicant have an idea of what that other 75% is going to be prior to the reconciliation?
So could you speak to that a little, Michelle?
Well, could you repeat the question again so they
I'm
can hear
sorry.
mine?
So the question for, sorry.
Or either one, whoever.
I'll do it. Yeah, so my question is, would the applicant of the special event have an idea of what the other 75% of that fee would be before they pull that permit? So 25% is due, and then after the reconciliation phase, once the event is completed, the other 75% is due. Now, I've worked with nonprofits around the city, and that's always a point of anxiety for them.
Right.
That, you know, not knowing, like, okay, how many police officers did we actually need on site that day? How much, you know, medical staff did we actually need to have that day?
So I want to answer that. So we, when you're paying for a building, when you're having an event, you don't want anybody because you don't want to have to pay them. So, that amount or that fee is generated by those agencies. So let's just say BPD said estimated at your event, you're going to be billed $1,000. We show you that $1,000 and we take 25% of it to give you that 25% due.
Understood.
The reason that we don't bill you up front for the $1,000, we don't know what could happen in between time. So they have to post for overtime. If they're not able to get all the officers, if they have to supplement with traffic enforcement officers, the cost goes a little bit down. So we don't want to bill you for something 100% and then have to issue a refund. Did that answer the question?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm kind of going to the previous question with the number of attendees. So I'll go here and I'll increase this to 400 attendees. And I will save, draft, and exit. Oh. I actually saved the draft and exited instead of submitting. So give me a second here to get back. Okay. So since we increased the number of attendees, that triggered another requirement that we have the security plan uploaded. So the logic from that change played out here. Now you're required to add an additional document before you can submit. Once that last document is uploaded, you click next, do that review, and submit. Similarly, once you click submit, the application number is generated and it falls in the staff box where it's automatically assigned to a member and they'll take action on it. Same case, they do a preliminary review of the aspects of your application and add the appropriate fee for the application fee and any additional fees that would apply. So I will do as I mentioned, after they do that initial review, and approve, you see that which steps are active. They have the blue circle with the arrow. Once they're approved, they become green. A little different from the temporary right-of-way application. All of the customer communication happens with the special event staff. They really work with the reviewers to coordinate your event, and they handle interactions with the different review groups as they work your way through the process. There are multiple check-in points with event organizers and meetings scheduled along the way. So they really serve as that point of contact. So your communication would happen here, and that's something that stays active for the duration of your review period. Okay, so I'll complete this. Once staff reviews it to make sure that the permit is accurate, they can go in here and your application fees are due. This works identical to what we've covered previously with the link to Paymentus and going back. But here with the special events process, this happens at different points. So it happens at the application fee point, the 25% cost point, and that final bill. Once all your review steps and your 25% cost is completed, then your special events permit is released. You have that for the day of. Similar for the events you would pick up. You would either pick up no parking signs or with some of the larger moving events, traffic coordinates to post those. And that happens so you're ready to go the day of your event. Right.
Just as a reminder for the campus sign, can you guys make those banners you're talking about earlier too, or is it just the parking signs?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
The request for horizontal banners,
Yes, do you guys take those or do we just bring them?
you would bring your own, so you would, it's a separate application, you would complete that, and then you would drop it off to, the sign shop, the folks who actually go out and hang those banners. Yeah, they would hang it at specific assigned locations.
I have a question, and that's just for my internal. What about when people request for the neighborhood banners? Do that still come through y'all office, or does that go through planning now? Yeah, because I know
Mhm.
Mr. Williams used to handle that in your office that retired.
Correct. So that's a different type of sign, and that's handled through a different process. But that still falls under the right-of-way services division. But it's a different process. Those are called vertical banners, and you can find information about that on our webpage. So right-of-way services, and it's under the land conveyance group. You can find information on hanging vertical banners. Okay. So that concludes the formal part of our, oh, I'm sorry, no, it doesn't. Okay. So our communications plan around this launch, we'll have the banners on the special events and temporary right-of-way pages. We've done a social media post, and we intend to follow up with those with subsequent posts. We did an email blast to historical applicants, which is why many of you are with us tonight. We're having hybrid information sessions. The first was tonight. We plan to do 2 more. We'll be doing one in March, and we're finalizing the date. It's most likely going to be the 13th, but we'll send out information about that and post that as that becomes available. A frequently asked questions section on the pages and that tutorial document will be available. Also, tonight's information session will be posted on the website as well. Contact information. This is the phone number for our right-of-way permits team and their email address, and the special events team and their email address. They're going to continue to support you with entering your applications as we go through this transition. All right. So that ends the formal portion of our presentation. Does anyone else have any additional questions?
One quick one back on the right-of-way application. Currently now, if you go to citizen and start an application, you don't make that application, or it's not authorized, and you have to start, I think 18th is switch over to.
Correct. So, yes.
That was it.
Adam, I'll go ahead and questions from the chat because you might have to go to the portal to answer some of those
Okay.
questions, so it's easy for you to navigate. Yeah. So one of the first questions on special events was, are the timelines still same for the special events? Yes.
Correct.
Would you please define large events?
So,
Well, a large scale event would be approximately over 200 people, because a block party ends with 200. So a block party would be 200 folks, no alcohol. A large scale special event, it's going to be a large festival that's going to be open to the public. So that would be that. I think that's the line between that. Is this an event just for the folks on the block, or is this open to the public? 200 plus folks open to the public would make a special event.
Next question is, are all other permits in this portal? I think that kind of answers to you.
all of the permits in this portal.
Mm.
The majority of the ones that special events handles, there are some subsequent application documents that will still need to be provided. Forms that need to go to another entity. They still have their form that will need to be provided that aren't 100% processed under our domain. There are some aspects of that parking that the parking authority needs to win. So there are a few things that won't be completely handled through here, but they will be those subsequent documents that will need to be uploaded. as attachments.
Yeah, I don't think that would affect, the customer as a user, because we manage all of that process for them. So I don't think that we mentioned in this portion is that we also manage, large scale special events in city parks. So that is an application on there, or a question on the application, are you having your event in, a park? We didn't. But we also manage those, so then we don't have to worry about the customer trying to go through recreation and parks to process that portion. Everything's facilitated in-house. The same thing for the health department. And we also will assist you if your event is on private property, but you also will impact the right of way. So we'll manage that for the customer.
Okay. Moving on, a question from Stephanie Holden. Where can I find the updated pricing for holding events in a public park? The document on the website has prices at a much lower rate than what I was told when I called in.
Is that question specific for parks?
Saying events in public park. Yeah, holding events in public park.
And she's saying that the pricing is what?
The website has the prices at much lower rate than what she was told when she called in.
That's the beginning rate.
Okay.
So, parks they're priced differently. It's gonna be based on the location. Parks have, high visibility parks, which do cost more, and the amount of folks. And also, they're not able to outright tell you what that's gonna cost because it depends on your setup. Are you, potentially gonna damage the grass? Are you gonna have tractor trailers that come through the park? Are you putting large temporary structures that could impact additional spaces inside of that park? So it's all relevant, or I'm sorry, it all depends on the scope of your event.
Okay. So what's on the website is up to date with what they should know. Okay. All right, next question. Does initiating the application hold a date if there are aspects of the application not in hand? Or does the date only get held once all documentation has been submitted?
The date gets held when all documentation is submitted.
After the documentation is submitted. Okay.
I do want to add, I don't know if this is on the website, but we don't want organizers, even though we're saying, hey, you know what, your data is great. We've received all of your applications. The reason that we ask you to apply so early in the process is because we don't want you to promote your event until you have a permit in hand. So we want to make sure that everything's complete and you have that permit before you
Mhm. Next question. Proposed construction dates are entered when initiating the permit process. I assume we will have the ability to change these construction dates after the permit is approved, since there is a chance this could change due to contractor schedules.
So that is allowed. Some other aspects of that is we work to kind of ensure that things that we permit don't conflict with other things. So the date that you put in as your date that you're intending to start your work could conflict with another project, or it could conflict with a special event or something else. So that's the date that you're requesting. It's still a conversation with staff, and our traffic team plays holds a lot of influence in making sure that things are done safely and that we don't have those conflicts. So it really is a conversation with them in terms of finalizing that date.
So just for clarification, if we did have a contractor meeting today, we should reach out to you guys and just say, hey, this happened, or we cleared it, and it's working. Actually, you have some internal process to rectify that. So.
Correct. So it'll be a conversation with staff, and it will also be a modification of your permit. So not every instance will be the same. In some instances, there may be an additional charge if it's kind of like an opportunity cost aspect to it. So by kind of scheduling and having these shutdowns in place so you could do your project, from scheduling other things on that date. So there really is an inconvenience. In some cases, you may be able to make a change. In some cases, it could be an additional fee charge.
All right. Yes.
All right.
I'll read the two questions. Um, I'll read the two questions back to back because that might have to show on the portal. I'll let you
Okay.
decide. So most of us do events over 99. Could you please show us at the highest threshold? That's one question. And then how does the logic deal with the hash number of people that changes over an 8-hour period? That is, if they say that they have 200 people approximately every hour, that's different than saying having 1,600 total spectators. What is the correct way to enter a number?
The correct way is, in a process of how many folks will be in that, on that location at one time.
At one
So,
time.
yes, so if you're having a community resource fair and you're expecting 1,500 people, 1,500 may not be on site at that time, and average maybe 350. So I would go with the average of how many people would be on site.
At a given period.
Yes.
Okay. Do we want to talk about anything about 99 over 99? Does that cover the large
Oh.
events?
I just
right?
yeah, I did show that kind of increased. So it required that a security plan be submitted in addition. So as you add those additional numbers, or if you're adding alcohol, there are additional requirements that come along with that.
Okay. Did have somebody in the green asking if we were able to answer, instead of answering no, can we answer some of the questions as yes and see what happens in your application?
Sure. I'll take your question.
Yeah, to that point about the number of attendees, like what is the maximum that the system would allow?
So
Now with the system
yeah, but
allows, can we go back to that and put in 10,000 because
So, like,
Because
how
we
many
have, like,
would
foot
you
races.
expect at AFRAM or Artscape?
about
Right.
that.
Okay.
10,000 at the same time, or
Oh, yeah. Can we not want to add?
I would think that would be on the low end, 10,000.
Mhm.
There it is.
Okay. So going back into this, we will do. Oh, you know what? I will stop sharing my screen for a minute, and I will make that change on the back end.
I'm going to read the next question as you do that so we can keep responding to some more questions. I had trouble uploading publicity flyer for a previous event, getting a message that it was too large. Has that issue been resolved?
So there is a limitation for attachments. I think it is, what is it, 100 megabytes?
Go back and check the system. Yeah.
So there is a limitation on the size of attachments, and I believe that is listed. If it's not, we'll make sure that that's listed
Yeah.
when you're doing uploads.
Have some help text down that's needed. Okay. Next question. It asks whether we intend to provide parking. I suspect the parking is a must. Are you asking whether we are providing parking attendance, or are you requesting city staff to assist with the parking? I think we're trying to understand what that question means about parking.
They're asking why we asked the question for about.
Yeah, I think that question is like trying to understand what that question means. Are we asking whether they are providing parking attendance, or are we requesting city to assist with this parking?
Well, the reason that we're asking is because the majority of Baltimore is a parking deprived place, so we want to be able to, we reach out to the services, or when folks give us a call and say, oh, there's an event, 2,000 people, where are we going to park? We may request that person to have a parking plan. We may request them to have shuttles. We may request some parking in the neighborhood. So we just want to be able to communicate to our customers exactly where they want to be. If their event is going to be in the city park, there's some limitations to parking inside of the park. So again, we may request a parking plan to figure out as a city how we're going to accommodate that large event and the folks who actually live in those neighborhoods.
All right.
Next question. Will the review group identify more than a group A, group B, for example, police, law enforcement, and things like that? Right now, it says.
So no, in this case, because the special events team is charged with managing that. The people that are doing the reviews, so fire department and police department, this really isn't their sole responsibility. And we wanted to manage direct contact of those groups and really manage expectations too. So we thought the best way to do that would be you'll be able to see what there are remaining approval steps, and in your interactions with your special events liaison, they will be able to help you navigate that.
Okay. Could you please show us a slide with phone numbers and contacts again? I think that's being shared on the website.
Yeah, so yeah, all of that information is kind of duplicative of what's already on our website. Give me 1 second here, though. I will. So I think, so I'm sorry. So Eric, you see this question mark now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and this is the contact information. And that's the same information that appears on our website.
Okay.
All right.
And this will be shared as part of the email blast and communications to as we launch the application, which should be already in there. Next question. Estimating crowd can be very hard, and if you anticipate too high, it would lead to additional costs, security, etc. Any advice on this part of the application?
If you're a reoccurring event, I would take note of what happened the year before. Ticket sales are always a good way to determine, and also invites or e-bites. So even if you're not selling tickets, just having people sign up to see who's actually an estimator who's coming to your event, and it also helps you organize or gauge additional services, not just the bill in the back end from the city services, but exactly how you plan to grade it. So when organizers come to me and they say, I don't know how many people are going to show up, my question to them is, how do you plan for an event where you have no idea how many people are going to show? So you have to have some idea, so some inclination of who's going to show, or how many people, or exactly what you're planning for as an organizer.
So you're still seeing this?
We are seeing your screen. You got disconnected from the TV, I think. Sorry, guys, we're having little technical difficulties in the room, but we'll get continued with the questions. Guys, having fun. This seems to be this seems to be a vast improvement over the previous system. Thank you for trying to make applications easier. When can we start submitting applications to this process for special events? My event is in June. this
In June.
in June.
Call us, 'cause I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yes. So this is coming from Bonnie Sorak. But just to everybody knows, this portal will be live on Feb 18th morning. So anybody has any events that they need to submit for, portal should be live.
And that actually brings up a good point I forgot to mention. So what happens to in-flight applications? So with in-flight applications for temporary right-of-way permits, that really is just going to be kind of continuing as business as usual. They've already been submitted, and you'll be going in to do the viewing of the status. For special events, there's going to be kind of a cutover. So this new process is going to be implemented and starting to take place from permits entered on the 18th going forward.
Can I add something to it? I just wanted to let some of our customers know, because we know that you love us so much and you want to come in and see us. We do have an opportunity to still walk through in person those applications. So we do have a lot of small organizations who will only submit on a video, still take the applications and walk them through. Well, encourage them sees this new system and show them. But we know that everybody doesn't have the technical savvy to make sure that, so we are still here for those folks also.
Yeah, and that's something we're working through. But we'll kind of coordinate with ESIT for. We really want to kind of enable everyone to use this that can. So, kind of looking into having opportunities for us to kind of walk people through entries as well. All right.
How can we plan an event if we don't know that if the date is available, we have to submit everything and the date may be blacked out?
Well, it would be blacked out. It would be busy. So you could still submit an application for a date. And if we came back to you and said, you know, if you submit an application and you've got 80 people and it's a block party and it's taking place on a date that Artscape is taking place, I don't know that I will reject that. So again, it depends on the location, the resources. So we're not blocking the date out completely. We're letting the customers know that it's a busy date. You may not provide all the services that you need for your event. And then again, we want to make sure that everything's safe. So, you know, we'll work with everybody to find something to try to help them have their event on the date that they select.
Yeah. And as Michelle mentioned, really getting your application in as early as possible really kind of aids in kind of doing that coordination.
Patrick is asking a clarification. The number of participants should be considered the amount you anticipate being there at one time, not over the length of the event. Previous answer was hard to hear. And that's a yes, right? So the number of people would be present at that time, not throughout the event. Is what they should. That
So
should
if
be
I'm
the
having a concert and I'm selling tickets, my estimated amount is 4,000. It's 4,000, and then that's it. But again, a resource area would be different. A festival would be different based on the footprint. Now, you can put whatever it is that you want on that application. So if I'm having the Michelle's Festival and this is a recurring event, and I say it's going to be 300 people, there may be some agencies that come back and say, no, it's not 300, we've been there the last 4 years, no, it's 2,000. So again, I mean, we can always work through those things, but we want you as an event organizer and as a planner, if you're planning this event, again, there should be some idea of what you're planning for, and then we're able to plan for what you're planning.
Okay. Will we have to have a permit to utilize things in the public park like grill or anything else that will be covered in the permit for the park area?
Yes, no, not a grill. But that would be based on the reviewers and for determination. So who would determine anything in reference to fire? That would be the fire marshals. So it depends on, I think, on how grand that is, but there are grills in the park, and there's specific park rules, so I don't want to speak on those. I know some parks have no grilling, so it would depend on the location of your event. But this is what I want everybody to know. Whatever you want to have, ask for that, and then we'll figure it out from there and make determine that, because every event is going to be different, and every location could be different. So what may be permitted at Canton Waterfront may not be permitted at Carroll Park. So it is location specific a lot of times.
And I guess just to add on to that answer, also kind of in the existing special events page, there is kind of information about events at parks and the thresholds that kind of bump it to a special events versus a parks. And that's, I think it probably is in that vein, something to be considered as well.
Okay. I'm going to ask the question, one last question we have. What counts as a low visibility park?
That would be low visibility is it would not be Canton Waterfront. It would not be anything at the Inner Harbor. It would not be Patterson Park. So it would be a park, maybe, I think we're gonna say somebody.
More like the tucked away parks.
Yeah,
communities, which is like
A neighborhood park. Look at
Neighborhood
there.
parks.
Any neighborhood park.
Okay.
The ABC park. That's what an example that she gave. That is an actual park, just found out the other day, the ABC park. So any neighborhood park is a low visibility park.
Mhm.
Thank you, Anita.
That question is follow up to is Leakin Park a low visibility park? I don't know what that park is. I'll have to look at it. I don't know. Leakin, Leakin.
They're asking, is it low visibility?
Yeah, they're
No,
asking that as an
it's-
example.
No, it's high visibility.
It's a high visibility. Cattle Park. Cattle Park is a high visibility.
What park is that?
Cattle, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's high
High
visibility park
visibility.
too.
Okay. So just follow questions on the same question. That's kind of almost the last question. Actually, the last question. We have some more comments in the chat. It was a great presentation. Thank you all. Thank you for great presentation. Look forward to using the portal. Thank you for the webinar. So some comments in the chat in the presentation. So thank you all for your hard work on making this process more efficient. Thank you for a great presentation. So some comments from both.
All right. Thank you all very much for participating with us tonight. Great questions, both in the room and on chat. Kind of as I mentioned earlier, you can be on the lookout for this posting and the launch on the 18th and additional support materials on the websites. Thank you all for your time. Get home safe.
Thank you.